What's up, guys? My name's Colin. Welcome to 4 Ounce Insight. In this video, we're going to have a little look at Sean O'Malley. Now, I know some of you might be a bit sick of hearing about him now. It's about 10, 11 days since he took UFC gold off Aljo, as you all probably know now, by knockout in the second round, or TKO second round. What an incredible journey. But what a bit of a controversial journey as well. Let's face it, Sean O'Malley is undeniable. If it's his unorthodox striking, his kicking, his ability to knock someone stone cold out, his pink hair, his personality, he's just one of those characters. You're going to watch. You can't help but watch. There is something about him, the star quality bit, and I know that's why people talk about Conor, and I will spin round to that, I promise you. But, what has made him a fan favourite? And there's no single thing here as well. Do I think he would have always been a fan favourite? Yeah, very possibly, very possibly. Did the UFC help him? Absolutely. Now, you can't pad a record quite the same way as you do in boxing. Now, not to criticise the sweet science, but we know fighters, the main purpose of a boxer is to get to 11, 12, 13, 14, and O. The O is all important. And I kind of feel like the UFC were very much trying to do that with Sean, especially in the beginning. And let's not pretend, they absolutely knew straight away that this guy would be a star. I mean, it was inevitable, as long as he continued to win. And before the fight, Aljo was going off about his record, and I think that's always going to be a little bit of criticism about Sean. There's nothing you can do about it. It kind of looks padded, And Dana White privilege, no one's got Dana White privilege. Yeah, they do. You can sell tickets. You're getting Dana White privilege. If he thinks you can sell tickets, your ride's a little bit easier. What did Sean get his, 14-1, 13-1, 14-1, something like that? And he gets a title shot? How many fighters did you see at 11-0? 12-0, 13-0, then pick up a few losses, never get their shot. But the interesting thing for me is, so he comes through the Contender Series, and it's like the stars aligned, right? Not only does he get a sensational knockout, not only does he do it in Snoop Dogg's present, who then gives him the perfect footage reel going forward for the rest of his career. He then comes out of the Contender Series, and I've got it here. He fought on UFC 222, UFC 248, UFC 250, UFC 252, 260, 264, 269, 276, 280, and 292. There you go. What's the point, Colin? Yeah, I get it. Yeah, he fought. Yeah. No fight night. No fight night. He started off on pay-per-view from day dot. Even following a little break from 2018 to 2020, where I'm pretty sure he got busted by USADA for weed, not for steroids, but nevertheless, no clawing his way back, no getting names out there. On a pay-per-view every single time. And let's face it, once he knocks out Eddie Wyland, that's it. Another highlight reel. It was the most insane, beautiful knockout. And they were ready. UFC was ready there, right? Let's launch him and give him another up-and-coming star, Marlon Vera. Another name we will have to circle back to. We all know what happened there, apart from Sean, apparently. Didn't lose that fight at all. But then pieces up Almeida, Chris McTino. It was his first fight in the UFC. Then we make a couple of big jumps. Pedro Muniz, really the biggest name. Then Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling. Not many fighters get that pathway to the top. Not many fighters at all. Leon Edwards, Michael Bisping. How many fights did they need to have before they got a title shot? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing them. The reason you can't compare them is Sean O'Malley's personality is just something else. Not that I'm saying Mike Bisping isn't someone you want to watch, but there's no way that he ever grasped the media the way that Sean O'Malley did. So we've got a bit of Dana White privilege there. He's definitely been allowed to get to the top fairly quickly. He's been allowed to burn out his contract on Simple Fighters, which he made public, which any other fighter had done that. Dana White would have crushed them so hard. God, their kids would have felt that spanking. Gives him a polite warning. They move on. They're making money. They're making money. And I think what it is Dana knows that he's got an exceptional fighter and he's got a brand. The Sugar Show is a brand. Suga Sean O'Malley is a brand, right? And yeah, so I'm not going to break down the fight. There's thousands of videos on that and lots of professionals talking about it. The only thing I would say is you've never seen someone use a 1-inch reach advantage so perfectly. Like, he faded away from Aljo's shot and made his 1-inch reach advantage look like 6-foot reach advantage. He moved up. It's a great knockout. You can see it. It's all over YouTube, for God's sake, which actually is another point I wanted to talk about. That's what a helpful segue. Not to pick on Leon again, but Leon Edwards probably had the greatest comeback fight in history. He beats Usman last round, the greatest head kick ever. The UFC didn't release that footage for a little while. Now, I'm kind of trying to remember here, so please, if I mess this up, but I don't remember seeing many fights, especially on pay-per-view, that then translated into a YouTube video released by the UFC of the finishing sequence. So you will definitely find out who won. They had that knockout of Sean O'Malley on Aljo uploaded by the time I started watching the card. Now, I'm not pulling some weird time traveling trick here. Because I watch the fights in the morning, because they happen late at night here in England. I often watch them in the morning, we record them. Sometimes I'll stay up. I've got kids. Like, next day's just exhausting anyway, to be perfectly honest. So I can get up in the morning, have a coffee, get my day going by watching the fights. So by the time I'd started watching the fight, around about 7:30, and got halfway through the card, I checked my phone, I'm getting messages, and I was aware that I could see thumbnails showing the fight. So I switched my phone off. I don't want to find out what happens. Watch the fight, go back to YouTube, and there is the knockout on YouTube, on the UFC page, and it's 2 hours old. They must have released that straight after the fight. Now, that's unusual because it's pay-per-view. They want you to... They don't want to hand this stuff out for free. They want to keep bringing you back. But equally, they wanted to let everybody know Sean O'Malley's a champ. It's time to part with your money now. Get on board. The Sugar Show has arrived. The hype train has pulled into the station and it's full of psychedelic colours and flamboyant Lamborghinis and, funky hair. But it also turned up with a glove full of knuckles. And now everybody knows the hype is real because the belt says so. Now, do I think he's the complete fighter? No, not yet, not yet. And, grappling is always going to be the thing people throw at him. And he himself said he needed to keep Sterling off of him and be the sniper. And we know there are some devastating wrestlers in that division as well. But it's hard to say now that the hype isn't real. And he's got the UFC behind him, and they've got him there nicely without taking too much damage. How far can this kid go, and how much money can he make? Now, the one thing I would say Sean O'Malley does better than anyone, any fighter out there, I don't care who it is, and I don't care what weight they're at, and that's social media. Now, some of them are very good. Sean O'Malley makes money off social media like you wouldn't believe. And I'm not just talking about the Suga Show and the podcast. He's a gamer. He sells merch. He does skits and bits. You know, his personality comes out. He's not there just breaking down fights. He's being silly. You know, he's got that kind of connection to the smokers out there. You know, he's a weed guy. You know, he's crazy. He's funny. He's just a character. And he has monetized that. He knows how to make money off being him. And he can fight. And this is where the Conor comparisons come in. And I don't think it's fair. And I don't think it's right. But I can see why it's happening. So Conor knew how to make money outside of the UFC. But he did it in more traditional business ways. He centered it around himself, and he used himself to open opportunities. Sean O'Malley has built a singular brand. So he's not creating a whiskey or a drink, which I'm sure he will do. He can just sell stuff with his name on it. Now, Conor can do the same. But Conor didn't do that. Conor's very business-like, and you know, people talk about his business acumen, and I sometimes don't think they actually give him the credit that he deserves. Proper 12 was a success, but if you think that's his only business enterprise, you will be mistaken. He is rich, hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds. Property, booze. He's got shares in all kinds of businesses. The UFC cashed in on him. You can't argue that they didn't, but it was a different model. Sean O'Malley doesn't need businesses. He's the business. He doesn't need to be smart about what he's doing financially. He makes money. He can just stand up and talk for a little bit and make money. Sponsors love him. You know, he's not going to do anything weird or wonderful in terms of punching old men in the pub. No, I'm sure there'll be some videos of him running through a few girls in the nightclub, but he's not the he's not the guy to go out, get drunk, get into fights, do a load of blow. Let's face it, Conor's fell off in a lot of ways. I feel sorry for him. But he's a brand. He's a business. All in of himself. It's unique. There is nothing like it. You know, the guy sold shirts off losing a fight by just putting 13-0. Undefeated. Like, he lost the fight and made money off of merch by telling everyone he didn't lose the fight. That's some next level shit. And on top of the brand of the UFC, giving him that kind of, that additional push. Look at the shorts that are out there from the UFC around Sean O'Malley. I honestly, I'm not saying this, I'm not being critical, Sean. I'm actually a huge fan. But you will see that Wineland knockout all of the time. You will see him light up Chris Matinha all of the time. You'll see that Almeida finish all of the time. You know, not a lot of footage from Peter Yan's fight, though, strangely. And now we're going to be inundated with Sterling's, is it a TKO or a knockout? He wasn't out, was he? It was a TKO, in my opinion. And not an early stoppage. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah, but what a crazy journey. You know, like, some have worked way, way harder to get there, but you cannot deny the hype train is real. Okay? Forget the multicolored balloons and rainbows. The guy can scrap. And all the fighters that said that he had a padded record, yep, I agree, who said they wouldn't fight him because they didn't think he deserved it, every single one of them has called him out now. Every single one of them wants to fight, you know. And I don't blame them. And this is why, this is the Conor-esque bit as well. Like I said, I understand the comparisons, even though I don't think it's fair. Chael Sonnen always said, if you're going to win a fight, cut the promo for the next fight. In other words, call someone out. If you're way down the ranks, don't call out the champion. Doesn't make sense. Find something that's interesting, that the fans are going to want to see, that they're going to queue up for, and has a story. Create the story. He calls out Vera. How perfect is that? Now, this is not unusual for a fighter that becomes successful to want to go back and eradicate a loss, right? I brought up Mike Bisping earlier. As soon as he got the belt, he wanted to fight Dan Henderson. He wanted to erase that flying knockout, that image of him on the floor, you know, in the fencing position with a beast of a man flying through the air, about to pound his head through the canvas. Like, he wanted him to get that fight back, and he did it with the belt, and that fight made a lot of money. It was probably the best fight the best move he could have made at that time, even though an incredibly dangerous one, considering that we now know he was fighting with one eye. But this isn't about Mike Bisping. Sean O'Malley goes back, calls out Vera. Perfect. Vera's not going to say no because it's a championship fight. 1. 2, if he beats him, effectively turns around and says, see, I told you I was always undefeated. This is exactly what I was talking about. It was a lucky blow. His big toe hit my knee. It shut off the nerve, made my foot good. You've heard it all before. You've seen him talk. And if you look at the other fighters that he could potentially fight, they're all a little bit risky. Do you really want Aljo again? Because now he knows, right? He knows. He knows what he got caught with. He knows how he got set up for it. It's unlikely he's going to fall for that again. The second fight will be different. Second fights are always different. Peter Yan. You don't want to step in there with that killer straight away. I did a video after their fight, way back when, and I said at the time when O'Malley, when he hears that victory, there's a look, his pupils were dilated. He was a bit like, holy smoke. It's the first time he fought someone at that level, and he was in shock. And the question was, what was he going to do next? How was he going to push that? Was that going to make him withdraw? Was that going to make him work harder to get better? Was this an iron sharpens iron moment? Turns out it was. But that's a nasty fight. I don't think he really wants to revisit that too quickly, making Vera the better choice. Marab, a nasty wrestler that attempts more takedowns than most people have hot dinners in a week. Like, this guy is insane with his takedown offense. And again, I don't think O'Malley wants to step in with that. Not yet. Not yet. He wants to defend his belt. He wants to make a bit of change. He's very much going to dictate his path from here. Now, I think on paper he's done everything right. Everything he needs to do. The UFC are going to help him. And let's face it, we all know deep down, by crook or by hook, one day he was going to be champ. They wasn't going to allow this cash cow to go past. He's perfect. You can make snappy social medias out of him. Everything lines up. How long is he going to hold on to the belt for is the question. That's the bit I'm interested in. This is, for me, the second half of the journey. And like I said, I am a huge fan. Huge fan. So how do I finish this up? Will he continue to dazzle us with his flowing sort of striking, his control of distance? Is he going to continue to be this sort of enigma of a striker that, you know, is going to be revered for ages and become one of the greatest champions ever? I really don't know. Really don't know. I think he's going to go on a run. I don't know how long that run's going to last for, but he's going to be in and around for a while. Does he have... He definitely has the frame to move up. But would he move up at some stage to face some of those killers? Who knows? Who knows? Exciting times. Exciting times for the Suga Show. Exciting times for the UFC. They very much got what they intended to get from day dot. A superstar was born many, many, many years ago, and he finally got his crown. Well, that's my 4-ounce insight. Let me know yours in the comments section below. If you like the video, smash that like button. If you want to hit the bell notification for more great content, please feel free. Don't be shy. And until next time, take care.